welcome to my channel. Well, a lot of times when I'm getting ready to do a video, I have an intention, like I was going to do part 3 of one-handed opening knives, or, because to me the concept was, normally we think of traditional knives as it requires 2 hands to open them. And that's not always the case, Sometimes that, the whole intention behind it is that you can take one hand and open them. Now, I know some people say that they've gotten these rust locks where they can't open it with one hand, but the ones I have are just right. It's not super light, but it's not super hard either. It's pretty easy to do, with either thumb. I just gotta position my hand just right, because I'm right-handed. But I started thinking about it too, is like a Wharncliffe blade. They look nice and everything, but you're losing some real estate. I mean, I have to use the nail nick to get this one out, but it's got the really nice looking Wharncliffe shape. Now, if you take a sheep's foot, you got this hunk right here, right? Pow! That you can grab. Sheep's foot or ram foot or anything like that. You still basically have a straight edge that you can work with, except that the tip on the sheep's foot, we're going to call this one sheep's foot. The tip on the sheep's foot is thicker, sturdier. You can see how thin that gets. Now, this can work as an advantage or a disadvantage. To me, the main thing I like about the Wharncliffe is the pokiness, the sleekness of it. But, that's the advantage on this one, is that it doesn't look quite as threatening. I mean, it looks more like a work knife. And it's got a decent amount of a belly on it. So I think the Wharncliffe gets, and there's nothing wrong with a Wharncliffe. I mean, believe me, they're, like I said, especially when they start looking like a Wharncliffe, unless, like Case has got the 2 versions of the Wharncliffe, and this is not Wharncliffe. I'm just trying to pull out Wharncliffes out here while I'm at it. See, now here's the easy open. And it just gives you some real estate to grab. You can grab more of that blade. So you still can have your sleek design, but... And see how thin... They even put a swedge up there, to make it thinner. But... as I was thinking about that, of course, I'm not including modern knives in that, because that takes the whole reason, basically. Flippers. It was like, well, we want a pocket clip, and we want to be able to open it quickly. The faster the better. And then laws are like, no, you can't open it too fast. That's scary. I go, okay, and then eventually like, well, okay, maybe you can open them, in some places. But friction folders, peasant knives, have been around for the longest time. I think this is one of the best things. It kind of is incorporated in a rust lock. Here's the woodpecker design. Because it's secure. If you're holding it like this, man, I mean, unless it breaks on you, there's no way you're going to have this thing pulled on you. But I was also thinking, with one-handed knives, sometimes you can get one that's pretty good. This has got a lot of real estate and everything else. But the locking mechanism, if the locking mechanism is super hard on you to get, see, I can close that by, breaking it on something. But when that happens, it's not so strong it's going to close on you. But if the locking mechanism, the way it closes, gets you, with the strong spring, This one's got a half stop, but yeah. You can cut I've cut myself more often on closing a knife than opening it. All right? Because, a lot of times opening a knife, you're trying to be careful. And closing it, sometimes you kind of forget about that carefulness, or it decides to close all on its own. See, this one's got a half stop, too. Some people like that. Some people don't like that. I think for like one-handed opening, it's easier for you if it doesn't have a half stop, because you don't have that the torque, the friction curve, changes as it comes up to a half stop. It's getting a little bit weaker, and then it's easy, pow, and then it goes on its own, and then it builds up resistance, and then it clicks. So you go through different ranges of force that you have to exert on the blade to get it to open. Whereas with like a cam lock, it still does it, it still rotates and everything, but it doesn't have that sudden. This one's got a half stop. Is there a non-half stop in the house? See, now this one, they put the nail nick down here, but you still have to use it. I was just thinking about a large cotton sampler. That's a lot of force. Believe me, it started out, a lot of this was in the Civil War, like the razors that you grab hold. Here's kind of a Boker example of that, but it's not real strong. But they didn't just increase that notch out here so you could grab it on your boot or on the edge of a table. This one's, like I said, it's not a real good example of that. Because you got to be careful when you're open, especially, or else we just take it for granted, 2 hands, pow. All right, let's slice. Let's get to slicing. But I got distracted trying to look for all this stuff because I think about a certain knife. Where's that one? I know I've got a worn clip with a cutout in it. Where is it? Where is it? And because it's a popular, one, it might be hiding, but it wasn't hiding with these other ones where it normally was. It was at one time. So, this one doesn't have a half stop on it, but you don't have enough real estate. You really pretty much got to get and back here to the nail nick, and as far as leverage goes, you've lost half the blade. At least on this one down here, it's further down and gives you something to grab on. But the back spring on this one's pretty strong, so I don't know. It's not just like you lost your arm in an accident or anything like that. As people get older, sometimes I think about this also because my grandmother on my mother's side had a stroke, and she was in a wheelchair. And she used to be right-handed, but she had to do everything left-handed after that. And she got around on her own. She didn't have assisted, living, anybody over there with her all the time and stuff like that. She got around on her own, but her writing was different, because she had to write left-handed. But she didn't let it get her down, is what I'm saying. But anyways, see, like here's another worn clip, but because it's way back there with its nail nick, this one, it's like Cracky's cousin. This one, it also has kind of like a half stop, and it's not as easy, to grab. So basically, you get limited on a lot of stuff, or you can get by with maybe, it's got guns on it because I used it. Some of the oldest designs can do what you want. This one right here, it's got such a loose spring on it that, you can almost, you don't want to, have it just come loose on its own, but then it doesn't shake out. But it's easy enough that you can just roll that open. It's kind of a box cutter, design. Almost a worn clip, almost a sheep's foot. See? It combines everything in one little compact package. Who is this guy? I think this is D2 on him. Yeah, D2. R2D2. But yeah, these things come in handy and get the job done. And you don't have something springing back on you, oh, my little pinky. You know, gone now. Bye-bye. And this little piggy went wee, wee, wee all the way home. Yeah. So anyway, there you go. I was just mentioning too, like odd things like this. You think, it's that ratcheting thing again. Well, I've got the other one too that doesn't ratchet. But I mean, here you got a big real estate area, to grab it and start it. But you got to watch. But if you get to that first ratchet, you're cool. I mean, now it's not gonna hurt you. You can just work at it, one click at a time. Click your way in, and then you just got to get it started. But you can do that one-handed too, just like that. Start it, and then it's just ratchet its way home. It's got enough force right there that if you forget about it, I've got one ratchet left. I can do this. Look at this trick. Watch, kids. Ah! Yeah. Sorry, I should have warned you I was going to scream like that. Anyway. Yeah, so, as with anything, traditional knives, there are one-handed options. There are options to have there, and sometimes that can come in handy. You never know when. I mean, you can't be prepared for everything at all times, carrying every knife on you. But, if you're carrying something like a rust lock and you practiced with it before, I had to go backwards, make sure I didn't jab myself. I like this one because of like drop point, spear point, whatever you want to call it, point, shape of that. Because you wouldn't see too many of that. You'd see tons of the Woody Woodpecker shape. Which I like, it's cool, but I like a blade with a little bit more depth, and I really like a spear point and stuff like that. Or the side buster shape. Take that. But yeah, some knives, you've got enough real estate, it's easy, but this one's got kind of it almost feels like assisted opening the way it just flies up there. Then it's got a good and it's a lock bag. Of course, like I said, you have to tailor your knives to your situation. So there you go. This was going to be a part 3 of the grandpa knives, one-handed grandpa knives. And sometimes bigger is better because you've got more real estate to grab stuff. But your whole way of thinking, about what knife is better or whatever, all depends on, if you got enough variety of it, it just depends on what you pick up. If you pick up something and it works perfect and it's easy, don't worry if somebody else, on the forum or somewhere else says, those knives they're junk, it's a big clunky, they're goofy. They make a mini version. This is just a regular. If it works for you, if it works fine, then don't worry. Don't worry about what other people say or think, All that matters is it working for you? Is it working for you? If it's a $5 gas station knife that other people may laugh at, let them laugh. You can laugh on your own because you found what you wanted. You found what works. I like having variety, like I said, mainly because it's almost like having a knife catalog when you've got a collection. It's almost like having a knife catalog in your house because you can just roll up and... Oh, speaking of which, man. Now, this is just... It's knife related, but, you can click off if you want to or whatever. But I walk around and I live in an apartment complex and people throw stuff away. And sometimes they throw some pretty good stuff away, but I can't always get it. And one of them was 2 metal filing cabinets that were basically either end of a desk, but metal and with good drawers. Each one had like 3 drawers, a deep drawer, and then you could see they had dividers and it was set up for that. I got a picture. I took a picture of it. Each one had a lock too. They were just wafer locks. Usually what I would do is I'd hijack just the lock out of that. But I went back there with my Leatherman and everything, and I was looking at the trays. I thought, if I could just take the tray out. But there's a tube on One side looks easy. It looks like it just slipped in there, but then there's a tube which is a rail, and I think they spot welded it on the inside of that other one because nothing's exposed on the outside and nothing's exposed from the inside, and you can't just slip that out without. I couldn't get it without messing it up, and they're heavy on their own. They probably weigh about like 40 or 50 pounds, and I thought, rather than mess it up, I'm just gonna have to pass it up. So sometimes I have to pass up some good stuff for free, and one of the best things to store, I store a lot of my knives in boxes and stuff like that, and tackle boxes. All those work well and everything else. But for ease of access, one of the best things is flat drawers, small flat drawers, a lot like a toolbox. But those things are expensive, and a lot of people use these wooden ones they get from there and everything. And yeah, the best thing is if you can find something for free that would work like that. But I just had to pass it up, I said, you know what? Somebody else might want it. I don't want to destroy it. Somebody else might take it. And I was out there with the maintenance guy when he, was coming back there, and he said, man, he said, I'd get it, but the stuff I'd have to clean up to make room for it. And I said, yeah, I could only figure out getting maybe one of them. Even then, I'd have to get my Jeep over here. I could do it, but then I'd have to clean out an area, and it's not really exactly perfect for what I need. It's still open in the top, and it's pretty big. And then I was thinking of just throwing the Bowie knives in there and everything, but they're fine in the cardboard box they're sitting in. And, that's the, I know everybody tries to cut back on expenses. You can usually justify, I just bought another flashlight I don't need. I've got some knives coming in that are okay, some good budget knife purchases that I'll talk about later on. But anyways, this thing's getting too long, but I just wanted to say that, yeah, sometimes even free stuff you're going to have to pass up. And it'll have to be a discussion for a later time about what do you do when you're having to cut back on your knife budget, because I know a lot of people are going through that because of inflation and your wages and everything else are just not keeping up with your hobby, which can happen at any time, no matter what your wage. But nowadays, and there's a ways around that. But like I said, that's another story for another time. As usual, of course, modern things, modern examples are going to be the fastest, most effective way around a lot of your issues. But everything depends on what you're allowed to carry. What good does it do, having a switchblade at home when you need it right then, You need it right then, not when you get home. You need it when you're out and about. Anyway, there you go. That's a long ramble. See, I was thinking about all this stuff, and I started thinking about it. And a lot of times, I don't have anything to say, imagine that, about knives. I get on all kinds of other tangents, but I was thinking about this, and thinking about how some of the older, things that people wouldn't look at, like, that's terrible. It's not fast enough and everything else. It can serve a purpose, and sometimes that purpose could be very important, and you won't know until you know, and then if you know, then you know. So there you go. Anyway, you're crazy. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.